Lars, did you hear me sing Werewolf Flanders? Deadly!
Hello.
So, as is rapidly becoming tradition, I have to tell you that I'm not exactly the biggest fan of this build, which is strange because I'm not a furry, but I like wolves like any other teenager, which I am not, I just never grew out of it. And a Tempest Roar dropped for me, which by the way, I think Faceless Shrine is the best place to farm it, so I'm like, sure, let's build Lightning Shred. So I did it, and it's a melee build that loves critical hits because we all do, because it's also running Grizzly Rage, Direwolf, and Werebeast to turn our Grizzly Rage into a Wolfy range and let us do more crit damage because of Werebeast. However, while it is an excellent build that can clear things really quickly, especially if you equip the correct heart, the fact is it is a melee build, and as defensively as I have built this guy as much as possible, you're gonna have to rely on hit and run strats. You're not gonna wait in there and be a monster. You're not an actual werewolf, you're a druid pretending to be a werewolf, and as such, don't be surprised if you fall faster than Superman on laundry day. That said though, if you are like me and you're not really looking to push nightmare levels as far as you can, it's still pretty good. It's very fast, it's very efficient at clearing. Not as fast as Landslide because this one does require resource management, but it can still be fun if that is your thing. So if you already know what this is all about and just want to check out the build, just look in the description below. There will be a link to the build. And for the rest of you, let's get started with the items. Let's start with Tempest Roar. And Tempest Roar is apparently rare for people. I personally found mine on Faceless Shrine because cultists and cannibals tend to drop helmet uniques more. So Faceless Shrine is the best because Area 1 has cannibals and Area 2 has cultists, making it perfect for farming. In theory, who really knows what the numbers are? As for what Tempest Roar actually does, it gives you a lucky hit. Storm skills have a up to 25% chance to grant Force Spirit, which, I mean, the good part is it applies to your Cyclone and your Hurricane, so that's good. It gives you a semi-passive way of generating spirit, and you're gonna eat a lot of spirit because of Shred, but we'll get to that later. Your base storm skills are also werewolf skills, which makes them a shape-shifting skills. That's gonna matter later. And because we are in melee and thus in harm's way, we're gonna use the vigorous aspect on our chest piece or pants piece. It gives us a very sorely needed 15% damage reduction while shapeshifted into a werewolf. Now, why not Mad Wolf's Glee, even though the bonus to skills is massive? The fact is, it does not have the greatest defensive rolls, and as always, we are in melee and thus in harm's way, so we want more defensive abilities. And the only way to get that is with unique armor. By the way, the axe that dropped was the Butcher's Cleaver, not the other one, which I really wanted for this build. For bracers, I picked the aspect of the Dire Wolf, which changes our Grizzly Rage into a Wolfy Rage. As a Dire Wolf, we gain extra movement speed instead of damage reduction, which kinda sucks actually, but it gives us a spirit cost reduction bonus of up to 50%. Additionally, killing things gives us health for 10% of our maximum life, which is great because it doesn't say base life, unlike most barrier and fortify effects. Now is a good time to mention that this is quite reliant on Grizzly Rage running around because it gives you a lot of your bonuses and lets you hold Shred without really caring for your resource, as well as gives you movement speed for additional safety. It's also a good time to mention that this build also really likes attack speed. The faster you can get those shreds out, the faster you can proc bonuses and the more effective you will be. For our pants, it is our good friend, Disobedience, which gives us increased armor whenever we deal any form of damage. For our boots with the fur, we are running the Stormshifter's aspect. While Hurricane is active, you gain extra bonus to your shapeshifting skills, which involves whacking people in the face. Also your storm skills, because they are also werewolf skills, and thus they are also shapeshifting skills. For our one-hander, this is an old friend we haven't seen in a while, Edge Master's Aspect. Skills deal up to 20% increased damage based on your available primary resource when cast, receiving the maximum benefit when you have full primary resource. There is also the Waxing Gibbous unique axe that you might consider if you get it to drop for you, because I have never seen it. Whenever you kill something with Shred, you gain stealth for 2 seconds. Breaking stealth with an attack grants ambush, which guarantees critical strikes for 2.5 seconds at maximum roll, which is undoubtedly pretty good. It lets you proc your Grizzly Rage bonuses much more easily and gives you a bit of safety. However, it is still weak against bosses. Ultimately, it makes you better at what you're already good at while not necessarily making you better at your kind of weakness. It's not really a weakness. You still deal way more damage to a single target than you would with, say, Pulverize. Dude, let me know in the comments below if you've got one and want to try it out, because But enough about that. Let's move on to one of my favorite aspects, the accelerating aspect, which increases your attack speed by up to 25% for 5 seconds whenever you crit with a core skill. Sorry, I bit my tongue there. This just allows you to get resources faster, get your Storm Strike out faster, which, by the way, does give you damage reduction and a chance at turning people vulnerable, so you're gonna want to weave that into your attack cycle. But mostly it's for teleporting around the room with Shred, which, honestly, pretty cool. Which, now that I mentioned Shred, I may as well mention that there's a little bug with Shred. If you hold it down forever, sometimes you just don't move from your spot, especially if something displaces your target and you're just swinging away. And sometimes you're still actually hitting the target even though they are not in range, and other times not, and you're just sitting there doing nothing, wasting energy and dying. Now, first of all, we've got the Circle of Retaliation, or the Retaliation aspect. Core skills deal up to 40% increased damage based on your amount of Fortify. We don't actually have a real Fortify generator. Our Fortify is based on getting hit, but we're in melee. We're gonna get hit a lot. Don't worry about it. We're also running a Brutal Heart, the Prudent Heart, which makes us immune for up to 4 seconds after we lose more than 20% life in a single hit, and it can only occur once every 70 seconds. Look, it's not great. It's good. It can keep your life in a situation. Think of it as having Flame Shield, except it's a Brutal Heart, but you will understand if I do not find this particularly exciting. However, if you are committing to a full farming build, might I suggest the Heart of Inexorable Force. It is a devious heart that pulls things towards you when you cast your ultimate skill. And if they're moving towards you, you don't need to walk towards them, so you can just start whacking away. Our other ring has the Brutal Heart of Revenge, which is straight up 20% damage reduction, as well as the Werebeast aspect, or Rampaging Werebeast aspect, which increases the duration of our Grizzly Rage, and critical strikes while in Grizzly Rage increases your critical strike damage by 10% for the duration, which allows you to get, what, 800 to 900% extra damage on your critical strikes by the midway point to the end point, so it's actually our primary damage source. Lastly, for our amulet, we have the Stormclaws aspect, which critical strikes with Shred deal up to 45% of the damage dealt as lightning damage to the target and surrounding enemies. That's a lot of damage, especially once you get the Werebeast all pumped up. It's also one of the best ways for us to deal single target damage, because we're essentially dealing 1.5 times the damage, which is further multiplied by the Barber, which we have on screen. Now it's time for the skills that pay the bills, but first let's talk about our totems. For totems, we have pledged ourselves to the Eagle, and thus we've taken Scythe Talons and Swooping Attacks for the attack speed and critical strike bonus. We also, of course, are never going to take out Wariness because it reduces damage from elites, which include bosses. Calamity, as long as there's Grizzly Rage on the page, we're going to be running it because it extends the duration of our ultimate skill. Unfortunately, the last bar ain't so good for us, so all we really have there is Masochistic. Now let's start with our on-bar skills. And I put 2 Storm Strikes up there because there is a visual bug. I made a short on it where if you start the game equipping an item that changes the traits of your skills, it won't actually show up on the bar. However, it is largely a visual bug and will not affect the effectiveness of your skills at all. Anyway, go away, fixed Storm Strike. Storm Strike is our basic attack, and despite all the ways we can generate spirit without using our basic attack, sometimes we're still gonna need to use it, especially on big bad bosses such as the end of Nightmare Dungeons. The important part here is that it comes in with its built-in aspect of might, giving us damage reduction for 3 seconds after dealing damage with Storm Strike. It also has a chance to immobilize all enemies, as well as a chance to make them vulnerable for 3 seconds. Shred is the name of the game here. Comes in with a lucky chance of 22%. Spirit cost of 33, but goes down to 18%, at least with my rolls, whenever we are in Grizzly Rage. It's a weird thing. It's like a Rekka if you like fighting games, where you right-click and it dashes at targets dealing attacks. The third attack deals a finishing move that deals damage around you. And its modifiers are great too. It gains extra attack speed and heals you for life whenever you are struck, as well as the second and third attacks gaining more dash and increasing its critical strike damage. It is also a lot of fun to see and use. Personally, I don't like how trebly or high-pitched the sound is compared to the bassiness of Pulverize or most of the bear abilities, but hey, it's still pretty good. Bloodhowl, Cyclone Armor, and Hurricane are next, keeping in mind that Cyclone Armor and Hurricane are not just storm and nature magic, but they're also shape-shifting. Bloodhowl is our steroid. It turns us into a werewolf and lets us howl and heals us, and kills reduce its cooldown by 1 second, and it increases your attack speed by 15% for 4 seconds, which is all just gravy on top of a self-sustaining sundae. Cyclone Armor is a passive ability. It gives you non-physical damage reduction, which is... well, it's there, isn't it? But you're not really here for that. You're not even here for the knockback when it is activated, and not even really for the every 10 seconds it intensifies and gives you a 30% damage reduction, because my goodness, out of 10 seconds, 8 of those seconds you are vulnerable. It's not great for that. It's really just for the occasional damage from your active ability. Being a shot at proccing shapeshifting / werewolf procs, as well as your Tempest Roar, which can give you a lot of spirit. And Hurricane does that last part, except for much longer, over 9 seconds. It slows people damaged by it and gives you extra damage reduction by reducing the damage dealt by enemies affected by Hurricane, which was a troublingly difficult sentence to say. Last but not the least is Grizzly Rage, which gives us an extra damage bonus and, movement speed, not damage reduction anymore, but the damage bonus does increase for 50% every second you are in this form. Kills to extend the duration for up to 5 seconds, which means that you're getting 27.5 seconds of Grizzly Rage. Realistically, only looking at a very short cooldown of, 19 seconds, 20 seconds, and that's great. It also makes you unstoppable and increases your Fortify while it is active. One thing to note here, though, is that this is your only source of unstoppable on this build. And it's also like your steroid, so you're gonna want it up as much as possible because it buffs up your damage to ludicrous levels over time, but it's also your only escape, and thus is my problem with the build. I need more defensive tools, but most of those great tools are in the earth half of the build. And I know Lupine Ferocity is not, on the bar, but it is our key passive. Every 6th werewolf skill critically strikes and deals 70% increased damage. Just big damage. I'm not going to discuss all the passives we're going to be taking. They look at it in the build in the description below if you want all the details. Besides, you're probably going to want to look at that instead of constantly rewinding this video to see what I said. First, let's take a look at Envenom. You and your companions deal 60% bonus critical strike damage against poisoned enemies. Now, we don't have anything that poisons them except for its partner skill, Toxic Claws. Critical strikes with werewolf skills, which now includes your Cyclone nonsense, deal 20-30% of their base damage as poisoning over 4 seconds. While that's not actually a lot of damage most of the time, can add up once you stack up your Grizzly Rage procs. Our unique defensive tools are Defensive Posture, which increases the amount of Fortify we get from all sources, as well as Nature's Resolve, which is, I think, our only source of Fortify, and it only looks at our base life, which is not fantastic, but is literally better than nothing. Alright, for Paragon Glyphs, Territorial and Werewolf are standouts to me because they give us damage reduction, 1 against close opponents, and 1 while we are in werewolf form. I do not say it lightly when I say you wanna pick these up after Exploit. Exploit, very important, but you also wanna be alive long enough to just play more comfortably instead of having to dash back and forth all the time. Alongside Exploit, we're running Fang and Claw, which increases damage close enemies take from you while you are in werewolf or a werebear form, and Spirit, which increases the damage enemies take from you for 20 seconds up to 12% every time you hit them with a critical strike, which hopefully is a lot. Our big boy Paragon nodes, we've got Ancestral Guidance, Thunderstruck, Lust for Carnage, and Heightened Malice. Unsurprisingly, these are all damage abilities. And that's gonna be it. It's an okay build, but I think I'm eventually just gonna float over back to my trample slide because it's just so much simpler. There's less brain power involved, which is good for people like me. Anyway, if you enjoyed it, like, comment, subscribe, Bring that bell, do all those nice things and more, but you don't have to do anything I say, even though it would help me out a lot, so please do what I say. I am Patinator, and I will see you later.